You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Goon podcast with your hosts, Joe Mandel, the Goon, and the man with the plan, Adam Schaum. We're bringing you the fantasy football knowledge that you need every single week.
Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Flushed out again all the way back. Turning the corner. Fires downfield. Caught. Touchdown. Only Mahomes turns what might have been a 15-yard sack into a 27-yard touchdown.
Saquon Barkley across midfield, down the sideline, stayed in bounds, and Barkley takes it all the way. 68 yards for his first NFL touchdown. McCaffrey right up the middle, and he is gone for the touchdown. 58 yards. Pass is to Thomas. He's gone. Touchdown Saints.
Okay, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cut. Now, while I wasn't able to cut everyone I wanted to, I have cut a lot of you. Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you. Congratulations, the rest of you made the team. Except you, and you.
God bless fantasy football. There are many things a man can do with his time. And this is better than those things.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Football Goon, the debut show of the season. It is week one. Football is nearly upon us, and we're here to help you set those fantasy lineups to get them in tip-top shape to get you into championship form. So I'm Joe Mandel. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined by my co-host, Adam Schaum, the man with the plan. Adam, how are you doing, buddy? And are you ready for week one of football madness?
No, man, I'm so ready, Joe. It's been a long off season waiting to get here. Been a busy last week full of drafts, as you're well aware of. And today's finally the day to put it all into action and start our quest for the championships and help everybody out.
Yeah, the quest starts today, and there's been already some inactives that are starting to come out. The most notable fantasy inactive, at least in my opinion, is J.K. Dobbins. A lot of people drafted him relatively high in their drafts, so the Ravens will be without him today. Adam, it looks like the backup role for, well, I mean, not even a backup, a guy that could really thrive today is Kenyon Drake for the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. They have two guys there ready to go, it sounds like, with Mike Davis and Kenyon Drake. J.K. Dobbins being out doesn't really make Mike Davis a great running back. We know who Mike Davis is, so like the opportunity's there, but I agree with you. I think Kenyon Drake's going to get on the field a little more and maybe catch some of those passes out of the backfield. And in my opinion, he would probably be a better play than Mike Davis today.
I feel the same way. I'm sure we'll bring him up again later in the show. And obviously it means good things for Mark Andrews, because even more chuck downs will probably happen for him. So that means good things for me, because as you know, I have Mark Andrews in a lot of leagues. So if he gets hurt, I'm kind of screwed. But for today, I should be in good shape anyway. But
I would expect Dobbins back in the next week or the week after, though. I think he's ready to go. The team's just being really careful with him.
Yeah, for sure. We could briefly touch on some of the other inactives that have come out. I mean, there's not a lot of – they're starting to kind of slowly peak out through the rest of the league. Of course, Zach Wilson inactive for the Jets. Joe Flacco starting against Baltimore. Sounds like Wilson's going to miss about 3 to 4 weeks. Not that a lot of fantasy owners have him unless you're in a deep league, but something to think about. The Miami running back situation, some of those Miami running backs are banged up. Salvin Ahmed is out for the game. Looking through to see what else is peeking its head. Officially, George Kittle, the Bears game today. George Kittle officially inactive today, Adam. So
that's what I was about to say. I think he's official now.
Yeah, he's officially on the inactive list. So the Bears, first off, catch a break there. And secondly, fantasy owners are kind of people that have George Kittle are probably freaking out right now. And I think that's one of the questions we're going to get here in the chat probably within minutes. But Adam, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot because we didn't really plan this because we didn't know officially he was going to be out. But if you had to pick somebody up off waivers, who's somebody you're looking at tight end that people can kind of plug and play and feel good about?
I mean, if you're in maybe a 10-team league or something, I think a guy like possibly say David Njoku could still be on your waiver wire. Possibly Gerald Everett, one of your guys playing for a high-powered offense this year. Maybe this could be his chance to really break out finally. I really kind of like Njoku if he's available as a guy there. Let's just face it, the Browns don't have a lot going on right now with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. It's going to be the running game and probably easy throws, and that's where Njoku could come into play for Brissett. So that would be like my top choice. Some other, if you've rostered 2 tight ends, Pat Freiermuth's a good one. If you've rostered a second one, I think he could have a good game today versus Cincinnati. What are your thoughts, Joe?
Well, I was definitely going to say Gerald Everett is a guy that's unowned, and he's criminally under-owned in leagues. And this is a guy that's probably on a top 5 offense that people have been really toting him this offseason.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that you could probably go and pick up in a pretty decent matchup against Oakland, Las Vegas. I'm never going to be used to that. Another guy who could be a sneaky good play today, Adam, and I feel like he might come up again in sleepers later on, Mo Alley Cox for the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan going up against the Houston Texans. We know they're horrible against the tight end. I'd much rather pick up a guy like Mo Alley Cox as opposed to someone asking about streaming Isaiah. I'd much rather pick up another option. Even like a Hayden Hurst with Joe Burrow today could be a sneaky good play.
Hayden Hurst was really forgotten about in a lot of fantasy football drafts this year. And, right, I mean, you could get him with almost your last pick in drafts. And it's like, this guy is the starting tight end for the team that just went to the Super Bowl and one of the best offenses in the AFC. So, I think that's a great choice. Another name I'd mention is Irv Smith for Minnesota. He's active now. He's back from injury. He started showing some real potential before he was hurt last year. And I think there's some serious opportunity in that Minnesota offense.
I'm with you, man. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game today, and
I do too.
That's kind of what I wanted to dive into quickly. Before we get into our rankings, and we will answer some questions to your chat, so please get them in there. We see you, Connor. We see you, Nate. We see you, Con Gen X. We'll be getting to your questions here shortly. But briefly, Adam, I don't know if you saw this. A tweet just came out with the field conditions at Soldier Field right now with the pouring rain. Mm-hmm. It looks like there's about 3 inches of water on the field, and it's muddy. It's going to be a running back day. I feel bad that I made a bet about Justin Fields' passing yards today because it's probably not going to hit that now. But the running backs, Elijah Mitchell, David Montgomery, it could be in for big days on the ground. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fumbles, I think. It's soaking here in Chicago. I drove through it here an hour and a half this morning. But some of the other big games, Adam, we got to talk about fantasy-wise. We got Raiders and Chargers coming up today. I mean, that's probably going to be a fantasy gold mine.
Definitely.
You got 2 quality. I mean, you got David Carr versus Justin Herbert and high-powered offenses. Devontae Adams making his debut for the Raiders. I got to ask you, Adam, because I've slept on Devontae Adams all offseason. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't think they're going to pay a guy like that to not give him the ball. But at what point are they going to force feed him over the top? I just can't see him finishing as a top 10 wide receiver. Maybe I'm crazy. What are your thoughts on Adams? Because he's going to have to win me over. I have zero stock in him this year.
Yeah, same here. I don't have him on any of my fantasy teams. It's not really that I don't like him this year or anything like that, but I'm really hesitant as well, mostly just due to the touchdown regression. I think that's going to happen going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a very good quarterback in my opinion, and he's very efficient and he moves the ball, but I think he's only thrown 30 touchdowns maybe one time in his career. If he even got to that, it was close. And other than that, he's more of like a 20 to 25 touchdown type of guy. But he puts up a lot of yards. So that's where I think Devontae Adams is going to take that drop in the ranks this year, is by losing those touchdowns where he's used to getting, close to 15 or sometimes even more. I think that's going to be closer to 8 to 10 range this year with the Raiders. Yeah. So that's kind of where I am with him. I still think he's going to be a great option in PPR. Him and Hunter.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think his touchdowns will definitely go down, though. I do.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to hit that top 5 this year for sure.
It's going to help out Darren Waller's stock as long as he's healthy. I think that's going to help out Waller a lot. So we'll see. There's a lot of great red zone.
They gave Waller a new contract yesterday.
Yep. So he's probably a happy man.
Yeah.
Speaking of happy men and big fantasy matchups, I think we'd be remiss, Adam, if we didn't talk about Packers at Vikings coming up this afternoon. That's going to be a shootout. Justin Jefferson, of course, Allen Lazard's out. A lot of the starting line is out for the Packers, which is obviously going to affect things for Aaron Rodgers, but he's got that escapability and can get it in the hands of pretty much anybody. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game fantasy-wise. What do you think?
I agree. I kind of think the Vikings are going to get out ahead of them, and then Rodgers is going to have to do a whole lot of throwing in the second half to bring it back and get it close. And, that's where I think a lot of points are going to come into play. I think the Vikings will win the game. I hope the Vikings win the game, actually, as well. But, I really think the Vikings offense is just fantasy gold this season. They've got Kevin O'Connell now. Zimmer's gone. I think you're going to see a lot of those concepts the Rams had going last year with Cooper Kupp for Justin Jefferson. And I think it's going to be a real fun ride for Justin Jefferson fantasy managers.
Yeah. I kind of took your advice later in some of my drafts, and I'm happy I was able to snag him in a few, because towards the tail end, he kind of slipped in a few, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to get on the Justin Jefferson train. So I'm excited about that.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, and of course, we'll talk about one more. We'll talk about one more big matchup for today, and then we'll move into some questions. But you got the Chiefs at the Cardinals in what could be the highest scoring game of the day. Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown now. There's no Tyreek Hill anymore, but, you got Juju Smith-Schuster stepping into a Chiefs uniform. Everyone's kind of sleeping on Clyde Edwards-Helaire again. They've got Jerick McKinnon now in that backfield. So it's
MVS.
kind of like Marquise Valdes-Scantling, Mr. Dropsy himself. But Adam, this Chiefs team looks like they're on a mission this year, and I'm not going to lie, the Cardinals have really kind of did a little off-season makeover. They feel like a different squad. Obviously, Nuck is on suspension for PEDs. What is that, 6 games, I believe?
Yes.
So he's going to be gone for the first month and a half of the season. But what are you thinking about this game today? Kyler Murray could be just lights out with rushing yards today too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, Hopkins is out. They've also ruled out Rondale Moore. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of rushing. Yeah, I think James Conner could have a big game. You might even see some of a little bit of, I believe it's Eno Benjamin is behind him now that might catch some balls out of that backfield today. Murray using his legs. And I think it sounds like they're going to have Zach Ertz play. As long as he doesn't have any setbacks, they said this morning, he should be on the field. And I think that honestly could be one of the leading pass catchers there for Kyler Murray today. But yeah, man, this game should be a shootout. Like you said, the Cardinals usually start the season really hot. I expect Kingsbury to do that with that offense. And I don't expect the Chiefs to take that much of a drop off without Tyreek Hill. You mentioned all the guys they've added and stuff. Pat Mahomes is going to move the ball regardless of who's out there. And so, yeah, this game I expect 60 points or more.
Yeah, I like the over, whatever. I think it was set at like 58.5 or something last time I checked. I over.
I think it's only 54, actually.
Oh, really? All right,
yeah,
even better.
Definitely smash the over.
Wow, unbelievable. Gotta love that. But let's dive into some of the questions here before we get into our rankings. Our buddy Connor, he's welcome back, ready for another fantasy season. We appreciate you, Connor. Thanks for always tuning in. First, great question: Cordarrelle Patterson or Hunter Renfrow for flex? That's a good one. It's tough because Patterson's basically going to be their bell cow. I mean, they figured it out last year during the course of the season, and I can't blame them for sticking with it now. Hunter Renfrow is going to benefit from the addition of Devontae Adams. There's no doubt about that. This is a tough one. Adam, I'm curious what your thoughts are here.
I'm pretty easily going Hunter Renfrow on that one. I think Cordarrelle Patterson did have a great year last year. We saw it slow down in the second half. They're going against a tough New Orleans Saints defense. They're always good against the run. Hunter Renfrow should catch. We just mentioned that, this is going to be a shootout probably with the Raiders-Chargers, so he should catch a lot of balls. If you're in a PPR format, I would definitely take Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, for me, Hunter Renfrow wins as well, but I think it's close. I think Patterson's going to do enough out of that backfield to warrant a flex position today, but Renfrow has the possibility to score twice in this game, maybe 3 times if they keep forgetting about him. So I'll go with the guy with the touchdown max because I think Patterson's going to get TDs stolen quite a bit from Kyle Pitts this year. I really think it's going to happen a lot. So especially today with that matchup. So I'm going to go Renfrow. It's close, but I like that. I was wondering if Andy Isabella's were the pickup for today. I don't think so. I would probably skip that. I think Adam and I both agree.
Do that. Yeah, I doubt there's anybody you want to drop for Andy Isabella.
Yep, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, I'm with you there. Our buddy Perry wants to know Darnell Mooney, Pittman Jr., or Hollywood Brown. I can only play 2. I think Pittman's way too good to bench, especially against the Houston Texans. So Pittman's a go. Now it pretty much goes between Mooney and Hollywood Brown. The weather here in Chicago is absolutely atrocious. It's pouring rain. It's soaking wet. I don't think you can trust Mooney today. So I would go Pittman and Hollywood. Adam, what do you think?
100% agree. I love Darnell Mooney this season, but it doesn't sound like today's going to be the day for throwing in Chicago. And Pittman Jr. is going to be a top 10 receiver this season. I'm very confident in that. I love Michael Pittman. And we just talked about Arizona, how high-scoring game that's probably going to be. It's going to be Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz in the passing game. So I 100% agree with Pittman and Hollywood.
Yeah, I think you're going to see, that relationship between Hollywood and Murray kind of play out. And he might be a sneaky good player all year, so I'm excited to see.
Yeah, they were great in college together.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, that's right. They're reunited. That's right.
Yep, they were OU.
Our buddy Nate looking at Montgomery or A.J. Dillon, thinking Montgomery. I think that's a no-brainer today, especially given the weather conditions. A.J. Dillon's going to be a good option too, but I think David Montgomery is going to be, a workhorse today with this weather. The only thing you got to worry about a little bit is the carries and the fumbles with the weather, but the rain's supposed to slow down a little bit by kickoff. Adam, do you think it's as clear-cut as I just made it?
I hope it is because I'm playing David Montgomery today. I'm playing him over A.J. Dillon. I'm doing that. I have both of those guys on a team, and tell me what you think about this. I traded Elijah Mitchell straight up for David Montgomery.
It looks great right now. I think he's going to be a workhorse
today it might not be the best, but for season long.
Elijah Mitchell might rush for like 300 yards today.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. That's what I told him after we did. I was like, I should have waited a week to do that deal with you, but I don't think it's as clear cut as you make it sound, but I hope it is. I'm playing Montgomery over Dillon, though. I really like A.J. Dillon all year this year. I think he's one of the best values in fantasy drafts.
I'm with you. And, the weather in Chicago is one of the big questions in the chat. Do you think Fields can still throw 2 touchdowns with this weather? He certainly can. I don't think he will, though.
Yeah, I would not place the bet on it. It looks like he's saying he did place a bet on it. I would have probably held my money, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what was the bet that I placed for passing yards. I'm trying to pull it up.
I want to say you had like 230 or something, or
yeah, I got it at 224 and a half. So I guess it's still possible with little shuffle passes. We'll never know. We'll see what happens, but I don't love it right now. One big play will help me out, but Nate, I don't love it, but he might rush for 3 touchdowns today. You never know.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see. Chargers defense or Eagles D?
Connor, I'll chime in on that one right away, Joe. I just dropped the Chargers D for the Eagles D to play today. So that's my choice.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles getting the Lions. I think that's a pretty close call. I mean it's an easy call today. Season long, I think maybe the Chargers will probably be the better option with the addition of Khalil Mack. But today, Eagles, and you can get the Eagles off waivers in a lot of leagues too. So as Adam just pointed out,
exactly. Chargers season long, I love.
Nate can't wait for the game to shut up the national idiots who have no clue. Well, I bet on the Bears today, so I'd love for them to win. You never know. Buddy Joseph, PPR, Mike Davis or Cordarrelle Patterson? Patterson all day for me.
Yep, Patterson. 100%.
Davis isn't even going to lead that backfield. Both Adam and I feel like it's going to be Kenyon Drake today, but
definitely for PPR.
Definitely for PPR, yeah. You might be able to get Drake off waivers. Would I take Drake over Patterson? Probably not. I think I'd still go Patterson because he's the lead dog. But great question nonetheless. Jordan, Zeke versus Tampa Bay or Pierce versus Indy? Indy's got a great run defense. Tampa Bay does as well. Zeke's going to get the volume. I honestly believe that. I know it's probably not as close as it sounds, but I'd take Zeke over Pierce, at least right now. Adam, do you feel the same?
I do agree. I would play Zeke today. I like Dameon Pierce in the long run. I think the hype's gotten a little bit out of control the last few weeks. And like you said, Indianapolis has a tough defense. They're probably going to be playing from behind. So I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to just give the ball to him the whole game. So I like Zeke for the volume reasons you mentioned.
Exactly. And Nate clarified on his bet. It can be rushing touchdowns as well. So I think you're fine, Nate. I do.
Yeah, you might make it there.
Maybe might one rush of each. 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And then our last question before we get to our rankings for the day. Connor, Cordarrelle Patterson or Darnell? Wait, didn't we answer this? I think we answered this already.
Out, I think.
Yeah, he did take one option out. Well, it's going to be Patterson today because Mooney's got some pretty horrible weather here in Chicago.
Yeah, Patterson's more guaranteed touches there.
And they're less slippery touches.
For sure.
But, Adam, let's get into our quarterback rankings for the day. We can put them up side by side. Oh, let's see what we got. We got one more PPR question we'll answer, and then we'll get to our rankings. Brian, we promise this is our last question until we get to quarterback rankings, and then we'll pick them up again afterwards. Brian Hill wants to know PPR wide receivers: Adams, McLaurin, Thomas, Judy, Ayuk, Julio. Which 3? Well, Devontae Adams, you can't not start him. That's just you have to because of where you drafted him and because he's got a pretty decent matchup. Michael Thomas, I don't even think he's full 100% active, is he?
He is going to play, they say.
Man, it's so hard not to start.
I got to
Michael
see
Thomas.
it first before he's going to my lineup.
I know. I can't do it either. So I'm not starting Thomas. Scary Terry really scares me, especially with Carson Wentz now as his quarterback. As Adam knows, I'm in love with Jerry Jeudy, like to the point where I think he's going to be like this year's Cooper Kupp. So I'm definitely starting Jeudy. Adam probably doesn't agree with me, but I think Jeudy needs to be in the lineup against that atrocious Seattle Seahawks defense going tomorrow. I don't know, Adam, what do you agree with those two? And then what's your third?
Yeah, I do agree with Adams and Jeudy would be 2 of the 3. And then I think I would probably play McLaurin. Terry McLaurin would probably be the play. I really like Ayuk, but with the weather situation and the Trey Lance question mark right now, I would lay off until I see something good there. Hey, hush. So, yeah, I would go Adams, Jeudy, and McLaurin.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you there, Adam. I mean, Scary Terry scares me, but it only takes one play for him, and he's just makes people look stupid. So I could definitely see Terry going off, and Jeudy and Adams both are must-starts in my opinion. Godwin's going to give it a go, so Julio's stock takes a dive when Godwin's in the lineup, so we're going to avoid that. And as you mentioned, I think Thomas has got to prove it to fantasy owners because he's basically hasn't played a down of football for 2 years, basically.
Yeah.
And that's really scary. So
I feel Terry McLaurin's like on that path of Allen Robinson right now, where he's like so talented and so good and just keeps getting one bad quarterback after another. And it's like I just feel bad for Terry McLaurin because I love that guy.
Yeah, I love Scary too.
Yeah, and it's sad to say Wentz may be the best one he's had in a couple of years. So that's why I've got slight hope that it gets better.
Yeah, I gotta clarify for Russ. Carson scares me in a negative way, like not in like a scares my like, oh, he's gonna destroy me, but like no, he's gonna just kill my fantasy lineup with like -7 or -8 points with 4 interceptions. Carson scares me in a bad way. I am not by any means scared of him offensively. So I just have to clarify that, Russell. So just get it out there. Brian says, thanks, guys. And also, I saw you gave us a like on Facebook, Brian. We really appreciate that. Any likes and shares, we greatly appreciate.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
We do have a tight end question, which is very timely given the Bears conversation. So I think we have to answer it now. Cole Kmet or David Njoku. As we mentioned, the weather is brutal here in Chicago, but it's perfect for little chuck downs to Cole Kmet.
That's
so
what
for
I'm
that reason,
I'm playing Kmet.
Yeah, for that reason today, I think you still stick with him even with the weather, because he could easily catch, 6 to 7, maybe 8 passes today, and it might only be for 45 yards and maybe a touchdown, but in a PPR, you can't beat it. So we'll wait and see. Maybe the weather will clear up a little bit, but seriously, go on Twitter and look up the field conditions in Chicago. There's literally about 3 to 4 inches of water. So
doesn't sound good.
It doesn't. So, but now we can finally get into our quarterback rankings. So let's dive in. We'll pull them up and we can pull them up and down the screen whenever we want. But, let's talk a little bit about this. Obviously, we already had the Buffalo Rams game on Thursday. Josh Allen did what many of us expected to do, tear it up. Matthew Stafford, not so much, had a rough day at the office. We both had him, pretty outside of our top 10. But we both have 2 different guys, but we have the same top 2 guys, just in different order, Adam. Yeah. I have Lamar first and you have Mahomes first. We talked about both of those games already, but now let's talk a little bit about Patrick Mahomes since you have him first. What gave him the edge for you over Lamar Jackson today?
Basically just the competition of the game he's in there. Like, as we talked about, I think that's going to be one of the higher scoring games, and they're going to need more points later in the game, where I think Lamar and the Ravens are probably going to run right over the Jets pretty early, and Lamar's going to get a bunch of stats early, I think, but probably take it a little easier in the second half. So that's where I think Mahomes probably gets some of those late touchdowns and puts him ahead.
Yeah, no, I can totally respect that for sure. I think we both have the same top 2. Obviously, it's not very likely that you have both of them in a league, so you don't have to make that decision. You're going to start either guy.
Yeah.
I think Lamar will have a giant first half in this game, probably play the half of the third quarter and probably ride the bench. They're probably going to be up huge. So I guess I could see that. Fourth on my list, I have Russell Wilson, a little higher than you. You have him 6, but really, Adam, I think Russell Wilson on Monday night against his old team, which very well, you and I have been talking about this all week. They might be the worst team in football. Seattle's brutal. Their defense is horrendous. Russell could easily go well over 300 with 3, 4, and dare I say even 5 touchdowns in this game. What are you expecting out of Russell Wilson on Monday night?
I expect pretty much what you just said, but in about a half of football. I mean, you mentioned how terrible Seattle is, and like you said, I think they could be the worst team this year. You combine that with Russell Wilson against Seattle in the first game and all the animosity that happened in that situation, I think. And I think it's just Russell Wilson was in consideration for right there at the top of my quarterback ranks. That's why I have him all the way up at 4, I think, because I just think he's going to send a message out that, hey, I wasn't done, and this is what I still got. And now I've got all these weapons in Denver that I really haven't had the last couple of years. And I think it's going to be an ugly game for the Seahawks and a beautiful game for Denver Broncos fantasy players.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited about that. Talk a little bit about your number 4 ranked quarterback, Adam. You got Justin Herbert. I mean, obviously I have him a little bit lower at 7. I mean, still obviously a top play, but, Justin Herbert looking to take, a step up this season, even more so than last. A lot of hype around that Chargers team. So what do you think he's going to do against Vegas today?
Justin Herbert, I mean, he's probably my favorite quarterback to watch in the NFL outside of our own Justin Fields. This guy is so good. I think I was in love with him last year. I only expect him to get better this year. So I think he's guaranteed for 300 almost every week, and you can count on 3 touchdowns. I think this is the year Mike Williams overtakes Keenan Allen for San Diego or Los Angeles. I'm sorry. I still mix that one up sometimes.
I know, I do it too all the time.
But yeah, I think Herbert's in line for 303 at minimum today. And I think you can expect that almost every week. He went a little too high in drafts, so I don't have him this year. Last year I had him a lot because he was going as the 7th or 8th quarterback, where this year he's up at like the 2nd or 3rd quarterback taken in most drafts. So I don't have much of him, which I'm sorry to say, but I think it's going to be 303 at minimum today.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be a shootout down there. We both have Jalen Hurts at the same exact position at 5. This is a guy who, the Eagles last year may not have been the best team on paper, and Jalen Hurts may not have been the best quarterback statistically, but I believe he had a top 4 finish in fantasy in terms of quarterback, 4 or 5. He just seems to get it done with his rushing yards. He's got, some better targets this year, of course. They got A.J. Brown. I'm thinking Jalen Hurts is going to take a nice step up this year, of course, and he gets to play against the Detroit Lions today. I know a lot of people are saying, the Lions got much better in the offseason. I think you just think that because you were watching them on Hard Knocks all summer. I don't think they got that much better defensively, but I think you got to love Jalen Hurts today against the Lions. Easily could rush for 75 yards and throw for 3 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love Jalen Hurts this season. He was a quarterback I drafted a lot in the place of – he kind of went where Justin Herbert was going last year. You could get – I think Hurts was a steal this year in drafts. He was going way later because I think he can challenge for that number 1 spot with all of his rushing ability. And you've heard a lot of things out of camp and out of Philadelphia that his accuracy has improved, his throwing's improved this year. And obviously it's only going to help having a stud receiver like A.J. Brown there now, which he has not had in the past. He's really been throwing to Dallas Goedert and who else, they've been a bust with Jalen Reagor. Yeah, exactly. Jalen Reagor was a bust for him.
Devontae Smith, that's it.
Devontae Smith last year, finally, so now you add in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I think it's going to be an excellent season for Jalen Hurts, and I think he's going to finish in the top 3, if not number 1.
Yeah, I got him in one league where I was kind of mad I didn't get Russ, but then he fell to me. Actually, it was in the Guillotine League for today.
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for Russ, and I was like, oh, man, I missed him. And then I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's kind of good for week 1 because I should at least survive the cut week 1 if Jalen Hurts is going against Detroit. But I kind of like the outlook this season as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, mature there. We've already said a lot about Kyler Murray. I really don't think there's much more we need to say. This is a guy that's going to use his legs and throw a lot this year. I like him a lot better after week 6 when DeAndre Hopkins comes back. So
yeah, for sure.
Then he could be QB1 from week 6 onward, but we'll see how that works. But we both have Tom Brady ranked in roughly the same spot. Tom has had a lot of offseason distractions. Lots of wind blowing about his marital status and plastic surgery on his face. Not so much talk about, what's going on the field, but I don't think there's any denying that Tom Brady has all these weapons. Now they add Julio Jones, and, I don't even know what Julio's going to do. For me, he's a guy that's a super sleeper on the season, but Tom Brady going against Dallas tonight. Dallas isn't a defense that scares me, Adam. I know people say that, they're getting healthy. They could be that team this year. This is the year. Dallas doesn't really scare me. I want them to prove it to me. I still think Tom is worth a play today. Most likely you're starting him if you own him, unless you have, one of those top guys like Mahomes or Lamar.
Yeah, I would. Tom Brady doesn't scare me at all as far as from a failure standpoint. I think he's an extremely safe play. You've got a very safe floor with him. We know he still has all these weapons. Chris Godwin is expected to play, though it might be limited. But, you're still talking about Mike Evans. You mentioned Julio Jones there now. I think Julio is a question mark, but I can really see him obviously not playing tight end, but fitting into that role that Gronk was playing, catching those touchdowns that Gronk caught last year. I could see those going to Julio, even if it's 3 catches with a touchdown for 20 yards. I could see that being the case for Julio a whole lot of times this year. I think he probably catches more touchdowns this year than he ever did in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think that could happen easily, though that may be pretty much all you get, some red zone targets. Who knows? It remains to be seen here with that. But Tom Brady's going to get you a safe floor, a lot of yards passing with all those receivers. And we know they're going to be a good team, so they're going to be in favorable situations all year. So Tom Brady's very safe to me. I would be playing him. Like you said, Dallas defense people think they're great because they had a lot of turnovers last year, but it was basically like they turned it over. Trayvon Diggs had 10 or 12 interceptions last season, but outside of that, you could complete everything against him. It's like that was all he did was catch some interceptions, and other than that, he was not very good in coverage. So I think they're going to eat him up on Dallas tonight.
I would agree. I'm looking forward to watching that game. I don't know if you saw it. They put out a advertisement with Michael Jordan talking about Brady. I don't know if you saw it yet.
I think I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
Basically, he's talking about, he's like, I was 2 years away when I retired and I decided to come back. This guy couldn't even go away for 2 months. You should call him the GOAT or something. It's pretty cool. So definitely looking forward to watching that one tonight. Briefly, just wanted to update everybody. The inactives are out for the early games, and there is not really anybody of note in the early games. The only big fantasy name that which we mentioned, which is an afternoon game that's officially out, is why am I drawing a blank here? We talked about him earlier.
Really just Kittle and Dobbins.
Oh, yeah, J.K. Dobbins from the morning game. Yeah. So you got J.K. Dobbins, of course, from Baltimore, and then George Kittle from San Francisco.
Yeah, I think Rondale Moore's a mentionable one, too, because he was kind of in line for a decent role today with Hopkins out and to start the season for Arizona.
Yeah, I didn't even see Rondale Moore officially come through, but yes, he did. I see that now.
Yeah, he was ruled out yesterday, I think.
Yeah, that's why it's out, because I was only looking at the noon games. But that's of note. So those are the 3 big names: Rondale Moore, of course, George Kittle, and J.K. Dobbins. So get those guys out of your lineup. I do have Dobbins in one of my leagues. I got to remember to take him out. I don't remember what league it is, so I've got to make sure I do that before kickoff here in the next few minutes. But we kind of walked through our quarterback picks. We're talking about. I have a guy ranked really high here at 9, and Kirk Cousins. I'm expecting a lot of good things from him today against Green Bay with all those weapons. I think people are sleeping on Kirk this year. This is a guy that's probably available in some leagues right now that could easily have a top 5 finish with the way that offense is going to be different this year. So I love Kirk today against Green Bay, especially Green Bay losing a lot of their offensive line. You might see the offense on the field quite a bit for the Vikings today. It's probably I feel like I'm going to be cursed by the fantasy gods by putting him inside my top 10. But Adam, do you feel good about Kirk Cousins today against Green Bay?
I do. I feel great about Kirk Cousins for this whole season ahead. I specifically had him targeted in that guillotine league you just mentioned a minute ago as a guy I could wait on a little bit later, but he's going to be super safe. Kirk Cousins is like the king of fourth quarter fantasy points.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this year I think it's not all going to have to be in the fourth quarter because I think they're going to be better offensively from the beginning of the game. So I don't think they're going to play from behind as much. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be a very good option today and a very safe option anytime you need a streaming quarterback all season.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of put things together in Minnesota this year. We'll just pretty much talk about the top 10 and we'll move on. So Oops, I'm wrong rankings. So, of course, you have Aaron Rodgers. We both have him inside the top 10. Why don't you talk a little bit about what do you expect from Aaron today? I know there's some offensive linemen out. There's no Allen Lazard. Do you think that has a negative effect for Rodgers today, Adam?
I think the linemen, they've got 2 or maybe 3 of the starting linemen out, including, his main guy, Bakhtiari. So I think that we've seen how much that can affect him in the past. I think it is going to be a big factor in the game, but like I said earlier, I think he's going to make up stats in the second half of this game. I think throwing with his quick passes in the slot to Randall Cobb, or getting it out to Robert Tonyan even possibly in this game. We'll see. But yeah, I think Rodgers will put up plenty of numbers to be a good play for your fantasy team, but mostly in the second half of this game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's going to be a shootout, and we're looking forward to all those fantasy points because there's going to be quite a bit to go around. So let's see what else we got. I think that was it for our top 10. Let me confirm. Did we miss anybody? Okay, I've got Dak.
Covers the quarterback.
Yeah, it covers it. I've got Dak. It's the Bucks. They're going to be throwing a lot. CeeDee Lamb, all those guys. No Gallup this week, but Dalton Schultz should have a good game. I think Dak is worthy of a top 10 start. I'm not expecting over 300 yards. I'm thinking he probably throws for like 280 and, maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns. So we'll see there. But I like Dak this season. I hope he bounces back in a big way.
Hang on one second, Joe. Let me let the dog out.
No problem. I can briefly speak to pull up some of these running back rankings. Adam and I are pretty linked in here. We're really only going to talk about our top 10 running backs on the air, and then we'll answer your guys' questions. But, Adam and I both have Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey in the top 2. Of course, swapped around. I've got Taylor 1, McCaffrey 2. He's got McCaffrey 1, Taylor 2. But we don't need to tell you guys to start Christian McCaffrey or Jonathan Taylor. These are guys that are just going to absolutely shred as long as they're healthy. But Adam, let's dive into like our 3 through 10. Derrick Henry, let's start with him against the Giants today. We both love the outlook against that Giants defense. Of course, he's a workhorse back. They're expecting him to potentially catch a few more balls this year, which I find interesting. I think this guy, if he starts catching a lot of passes, this guy could end up being the number 1 running back. Thoughts on Derrick Henry against the Giants today? Because I think he's going to erupt.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, week 1, I think they're just monsters. When those guys are healthy and coming out fresh, they're going to be the top guys in fantasy running backs usually. I think Derrick Henry was on pace last year to set his career high in receptions when he was off to that monster start last year. It wasn't like a huge number, but for Derrick Henry it was. And so, yeah, I think that can continue this year. I think he's against the Giants. I mean, I think that he's going to run, probably at least 25 carries today and 2 touchdowns.
Love it. I'm all about it, man. I hope so. I've got some stock in Henry this year, so I'd feel especially good.
Me too, and I never have Derrick Henry usually, but I do this year.
For sure. We both have Austin Eckler at 4. I think we talk a lot about how him and Alvin Kamara are going to catch a lot of passes, and sure enough, we have them both 4 and 5 today in their respective matchups. Eckler going against Vegas, Kamara against Atlanta. I mean, these are guys that might catch 6 to 8 passes out of the backfield on top of their rushing totals. I mean, these are guys that today could go over 100 receiving and 100 rushing. I mean, talk about Eckler and Kamara, Adam. And I know a lot of people are concerned about Kamara and his suspension. I think all that's happening next year at this point. I don't think it's going to happen this season. So fantasy owners, in my opinion, don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's all going to be the way the legal system works. That's not going to happen until the off season going into next year. And I think that really benefited people in drafting this year. I mean, I know I got Kamara in the second round of multiple drafts, like the late second round, around 18, 19, 20 pick. And that's just going to be such a steal, I think, by the end of the year, because I think the Saints offense is going to be quite good. Jameis Winston was very efficient last year before he was injured. And like we said earlier, we got Michael Thomas back. Hopefully he's going to be healthy and actually contribute to this offense. And I mean, Kamara had career high in touches last year at like 22 a game, and I think that's going to remain that way, if not even go up more. And Eckler, we know what Eckler's going to be in that Chargers offense. His touchdowns might come down a little bit last year because they were super high last year, and it's hard to repeat that usually, but he's still got to probably catch 14 or get 14 or 15 touchdowns and catch 5 balls at least in a game.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I can't wait to see what they do, man. I'm really excited to see how they are. They really are. This is the year I think Eckler finally pans out for people, but DeAndre Swift and Dalvin Cook are two guys that we kind of have in the same order as well. But I really like Dalvin Cook today against Green Bay. I know he's got the injury concerns, but let's be honest, the first game of the season, I feel like Dalvin Cook always goes off, and Green Bay's run defense isn't great. He's going to catch a lot of balls too. This Minnesota offense is going to be totally different this year. I think people are going to be really surprised. So obviously we both are big fans of him, but Adam, talk a little bit about DeAndre Swift, because I know you and I talked a lot about him in the offseason and, how he is going to be a PPR machine and could be the workhorse back in the NFL when all is said and done, if he stays healthy. What are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift, not only this season, but specifically today in his matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think the Lions are really going to need him today versus the Eagles. The Eagles have a very solid defense, a good front seven. I think they're going to need Swift in that passing game coming out of the backfield, and he's one of the best pass catchers behind those guys we just talked about, Kamara, Eckler, McCaffrey. He's right there in that group, or right behind those guys as far as pass catchers go out of the backfield. The key to Swift is just staying healthy, man. That's been his problem. When he has been healthy, he's been one of the top fantasy points per game backs the last 2 seasons. He's just got to stay on the field, kind of like McCaffrey, just if they're there, they are going to be the workhorse. Like you said, they're going to get tons of touches. They're going to be on the field almost every play, and it's going to be very safe and very high ceiling as well for your fantasy team. So I think Swift's going to be a great play today. Like I said, all those guys right there, the Henrys, McCaffreys, those injury-prone guys, Cooks, these early weeks are where you're going to really benefit from having them.
Yeah, I mean, I know inevitably at some point the giant injury is going to come across, but God, I hope it's nobody I own.
Right.
I guess everyone says that every single year, but it's the God's honest truth. Rounding out our top 10, we both have Najee Harris in there. Pittsburgh against Cincy today, I think that's going to be a great game. And, of course, Deontay Johnson active for the Steelers, which helps things out for Harris. I know you and I both feel good about Harris this offseason, kind of taking a step forward, not only in his rushing game, but receiving game. I personally think Harris finishes within the top 7, maybe even the top 5 at running back. How do you feel about him this year with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback?
That's what I was going to mention is I think the key is going to be the quarterback position there. I feel pretty good about Mitch Trubisky there in Pittsburgh. I actually could see that coming, felt like that was going to happen last year, that he was going to end up there with Mike Tomlin in a really good situation. If that offensive line plays just a little bit better than they did last year, yeah, Najee Harris is going to get a tick up in all his stats this year because, he had tons of carries last year. They just weren't very efficient touches because of that offensive line was pretty bad. So I think he's going to catch more balls with Mitch even than he did with Ben Roethlisberger, even though he was the check down king. But I think a few of those that Ben was given to Deontay are going to come to Najee this year out of the backfield from Mitch. And I think Najee's, definitely in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm a big fan this year. I'm looking forward to see that offense with Mitch because I think if he gets things firing on all cylinders, we're going to be real exciting to watch.
He's just so much more athletic than Ben Roethlisberger was the last couple of years. It's going to be a huge difference for their team, I think.
No doubt about that. Rounding out our top 10, 2 guys we'll briefly touch on are Leonard Fournette and Joe Mixon. I've got Fournette ranked higher than you this week, but he's their goal line back. He's going to be their dog now that he knows the offense. I'm expecting big things out of Fournette this year. I think he's going to be he's probably going to set records for touchdown totals in his career. I honestly believe that. He's going to get all their goal line work. But Joe Mixon also looking to be fully healthy. You know, that Cincy team, they did a lot of work in the offseason to hopefully improve themselves. You know, Burrow's a little banged up. Everyone's a little bit banged up. But I think Joe Mixon honestly could finally be the Joe Mixon that everyone has always wanted with all those weapons. You know, what do you think about Joe Mixon today in this matchup, Adam?
I think it's a pretty good matchup for him. The Steelers' defense has not been what it once was. The year before last year, they really came down a few notches, it seemed like. Their secondary is still pretty good, but I think the Bengals are going to be able to move the ball on him. Joe Mixon was really, really consistent last year. He's one of the most consistent running backs there was. Like you said, I think there's still more upside there that he hasn't even hit yet. I really wish they would throw the ball to him more.
Me too, man.
You know, I'm here in Oklahoma, and he was another OU player in college, and man, he's an exceptional pass catcher. Like they've just never used it. And I saw him catch passes in college, just running down the sideline and just making unbelievable catches that I don't understand why they haven't done with him in the NFL. But yeah, his ceiling is still higher than we've seen yet, and I think he's going to have a great game today and a great season ahead.
I'm with you, man. I can't wait to see that game today, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. It's always a tough rivalry there. It's going to be a good one.
He's probably the safest amount of touches besides Jonathan Taylor, I would say, as well.
Yeah, Mixon's going to get fed today. There's no doubt about that. We've gotten quite a few questions in between, so we might go ahead and address some of those.
All right.
Q McBride, what's up, fellas? PPR, Carr versus Chargers or Lance versus the Bears? For me, you can't touch Trey Lance right now until he proves it. So I'm going with David Carr between the two of those. You on the same page, Adam?
Yep, I agree. Not much else to say. We've talked about the weather and everything, and Trey Lance.
Yeah, and the weather's bad in Chicago too. That's another factor. Yeah. Roblox Elite Racing Network wants to know Kirk or Mooney PPR flex. For the reasons we just talked about, the weather in Chicago being pretty brutal, I think I'd probably go Christian Kirk. I hate saying that, but I just don't think Mooney's going to get, with this pouring rain in Chicago, I just don't know what kind of passing game there's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I love Mooney, and I have him on a lot of teams, but I think Kmet's the only Bears pass catcher I'm going to be willing to play today.
Yep, no doubt there. AJ wants to know, pick two, Montgomery, Stevens, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm assuming that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Hall or MT for flex. I'm assuming that's Michael Thomas. Definitely got to start Montgomery. I think he's going to be a workhorse today. And I don't know if that's Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Lions.
Surely it is.
I do love him as a PPR machine.
Yeah.
So for me, it's between Brown and Stevens, Ramondre Stevenson. I'm assuming that's who that is. I don't know that for sure.
I'm going Montgomery and St. Brown.
Yeah, St. Brown is a top-tier wide receiver one. He's a target machine. He might catch 7 balls in the first half. That's how much they throw at him. So if it's half-point PPR, that's the only thing, is that Stevenson could score like 3 touchdowns if it plays out correctly. But I still go St. Brown just by a smidge. Ramondre Stevenson, though, is going to be awesome. If you had another running back spot or 2 flex, I would consider putting him in there. But I'd say I agree with Adam, Montgomery and St. Brown. If it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, because isn't there a St. Brown on the Bears too?
Yeah, Equanimous.
Yeah, let us know, AJ, in the chat. Which
surely you're not considering that.
I would assume you're not. I would assume it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. So if that's the case, definitely go with him. Getting questions about Miles Sanders and our thoughts on his matchup this week. Apparently, he's full go. I'm trying to remember in our rankings if we even ranked him. Let's see.
I love Miles Sanders, the player. I think he's way underutilized by Philadelphia. I think they don't use him enough in the passing game or at the goal line. He never gets touchdowns is the problem. When he's healthy, he is super efficient. I mean, he's one of the top guys in yards per carry in the league when he's on the field. And he's just like a good runner, too, when you watch him. He's a smooth, good runner, but he just lacks touchdowns. So
That's the problem I hate.
Yeah, I worry Jalen Hurts also is going to steal a lot of those touchdowns, and they seem to like Boston Scott a lot at the goal line. Kenneth Gainwell's there, who they like throwing to. It's a mess.
Too many mouths to feed. Yeah, it's messy.
So he's kind of one of those got to prove it to me guys.
And we got two got to prove it to me guys here from Matthew's question, Amari Cooper or Tyler Lockett. If I could say neither, I would, but Amari Cooper takes the edge for me because he's just because of he can catch the ball. And Tyler Lockett's I hate them both. I wish you could not start either.
I do
Matthew,
too.
who else you got?
Flip a coin. I'd probably take Lockett actually, but I really don't want to do either.
Yeah, if I had the choice, I would start neither of these guys. Just let me know who else you got on your team, Matthew. If you had to choose, I'd flip a coin because it's.
Yeah. Do you have Equanimeous St. Brown on your team?
Yeah, I mean, literally, you could pick up if this is a flex spot. I mean, go pick up Kenyon Drake.
There you go.
Today, going against the Lions because J.K. Dobbins is out. So curious what you got, but
or Randall Cobb off the way. Randall Cobb off the wire.
Yeah, there you go. I like Randall Cobb today. We've got Ball Glove Blueprint, DJ Moore, Kadarius Toney, PPR.
Oh, DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean DJ Moore is going to be a target.
DJ Moore must start in PPR league.
Matthew mentions he has Olave as well. I would definitely start Olave over those two guys.
Yeah, there you go for sure.
Olave is going to be involved in that passing attack for sure.
He could be a big play guy.
Yeah, good. Thanks for letting us know, Matt. Appreciate that. But yeah, and this question, DJ Moore, no question. He's going to be a dog. Looking forward to that. And one more question before we move on to wide receiver ranks, and I know we got to get moving through this because we got 20 minutes left in the show. Damian Harris, Thielen, or Michael Thomas? Who should I go to for flex? I like Thielen in this matchup today. He's healthy, and Kirk Cousins is gonna have a lot of time to throw. I think Thielen will get involved, especially near the goal line. He's not the same PPR Thielen from years ago, but he's still good enough to get you 2 touchdowns and close to 100 yards. So I think Thielen wins here. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I agree. The other two guys, there's too many question marks around the other guys. Harris, we got to see how this plays out with him and Stevenson this year because I'm like you. I think Stevenson's the better player. Michael Thomas coming off 2 years no playing. Adam Thielen, we know what he is. He's a red zone target monster, catches easy touchdowns from Kirk Cousins, and we've talked Minnesota. I'm lighting up all the Minnesota guys today.
I do. I'm taking all the Minnesota guys and Green Bay guys I can get. It's going to be a fun one. Let's get into our wide receiver ranks, Adam, and we'll kind of cherry pick a little bit because we both talked about Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. We don't got to tell anybody about those guys. Number 3, we both have Jamar Chase. I think today against Pittsburgh, he goes absolutely apeshit. Jamar Chase came out of nowhere last year, but I think people know now that he's the real deal. What are you expecting from him this season?
I mean, season long, I expect monster numbers, but I think we could still see some of that boom bust games out of him, like we saw last year, where he can go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then 50 yards and no touchdowns. But he's one of those guys that he can have 2 points in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you got 20 based on one play. So he's going to get you there eventually. I just think you're going to have a few low spots here and there. I think he's the number one option there, but I think T. Higgins is the more consistent receiver there for Cincinnati as far as safe play, guillotine leads, things like that. I think T. Higgins is the better play most of the time as far as that goes, but Jamar Chase is going to finish probably in the top 3 as we have him ranked right here based upon just the touchdowns he's going to get in the big plays, the yardage over the course of the season. So I love him. He's an extremely high talent player.
He is, and there's no doubt about that. And we both have Deebo Samuel inside our top 10, but he falls for me now with the weather conditions in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think they probably will get him involved in the rushing game a little bit too, but He certainly isn't going to be my 6th ranked anymore. I'd say he probably falls closer to 15 or 16 on this list for me now with the weather in Chicago. But I think there's no doubting that Debo is an extreme talent we're excited to see. But a game that's going to have great weather conditions this afternoon, tonight, is you have CeeDee Lamb ranked 7th for Dallas against Tampa. CeeDee Lamb is going to take a step in this offense now. There's no more – you don't have to worry about Amari Cooper anymore. CeeDee is the man there. I know you and I both loved CeeDee last year. I think we both love him even more this year, if that's even possible. But how many balls is CeeDee going to catch today, Adam?
I mean, you got to hope for at least like 8 or 9, I would say. You got to imagine he's going to get a lot of targets. Michael Gallup's also still hurt, not coming back yet. So it's pretty much, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, and then really next guy up's a rookie, I believe, named Jalen Tolbert, who, looks pretty good for the future. But, I don't expect game 1 him to come out and be the stud, This is CeeDee Lamb's team to take over right now. We've seen the aging Zeke. CeeDee Lamb's the guy right now. It's Dak and CeeDee need to take over the Cowboys. If they're going to go anywhere, it's on those 2 guys.
Yep.
So I think minimum you got to expect 8 or 9 catches tonight and 10 to 12 targets.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. And you mentioned Michael Gallup as a guy a lot of people should pick up off waivers. He's going to be back in the next 2 weeks, maybe 3. And they just gave him a huge deal, and I think he is going to be a force this year too, fantasy-wise. I drafted him in almost every league that I'm in. I have him on my bench. So
yeah, and in shallower leagues, he was not drafted. So if you're in a platform that would allow you to put him in an IR slot or something because he's labeled out right now, you need to go do that. Drop a kicker or something, add him, and then grab another kicker.
Yep, I feel the same way. I'm looking forward to Michael Gallup and this Dallas offense. Another guy we have here, and we both feel strongly about, is Keenan Allen. You think this is the year Mike Williams takes over? I think you're probably right, but I think this week at least anyway against Vegas, I think Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I think they both probably catch at least like 6 to 8 passes this week, and they both probably score a touchdown. I love the entire wide receiver core, even young Josh Palmer, who we talked about last year. I think if you can get a Chargers wide receiver, you're sitting pretty good. But Keenan Allen probably riding out into the sunset here either this year or next. I don't know exactly when he plans on retiring, but I got to look it up. Keenan Allen's probably getting up there in age.
Yeah, I think he's 30 or 31. I think
he is 30. That is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's not too much older than Allen Robinson is, but Keenan Allen looks a lot more promising still than Allen Robinson right now. But Keenan Allen, man, just an exceptional player, just about as steady and safe as you can get for your fantasy team. It's just, man, if he could just get some more touchdowns, he would be the ultimate fantasy receiver. And that's where I think Mike Williams overtakes him this year, because Mike Williams is going to get those touchdowns.
Touchdown machine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we love that, obviously. It's going to be a great matchup. And let's go towards the bottom of our list and talk about what some of these people would consider a sleeper wide receiver. I mean, I don't really think there's anybody in the top 30 that's really a sleeper, but I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Elijah Moore today, exactly. Adam. And I know you and I both talked about this earlier this week. But if you guys didn't hear, Joe Flacco is going to be the quarterback for the Jets for the first 4 weeks of the season. That's got to mean good things for Elijah Moore, right, Adam?
Absolutely. He was the exact name that was popping off that list to me when you said look towards the bottom. I think Elijah Moore is a stud receiver, especially with Joe Flacco at quarterback. He was a top 3 receiver over the final 6 weeks of last season. A lot of people didn't realize that because he was playing for the Jets and maybe they were already knocked out of their playoffs or whatever and weren't paying as much attention at the end. But Elijah Moore was top receiver for 6 weeks. That's a pretty good stretch there to prove that. So I feel awesome about Elijah Moore this year. I think he's going to challenge for a top 20 receiver by the end of the year. And, if Zach Wilson and him can get any kind of connection at all, it's sky's the limit for Elijah Moore, I think.
I'm fully with you there, man. I think Elijah's going to have a good game today, and he could be, a guy to watch as a sleeper all season long. Another name here in that same game, ironically, Rashad Bateman here for the Baltimore Ravens. With Hollywood Brown's departure, this is a guy you have to watch all year. He's got top 15, top 25 potential at the position. So if he fills in the shoes of Hollywood Brown and he doesn't drop as many passes, he could probably easily finish in the top 20. So I like him today, too, against the Jets for at least a half until all those starters sit on the bench. But we'll see what happens. But I'm very excited to see Rashad Bateman take a step forward this season with Hollywood Brown gone. And I know they were kind of mad he traded him, but I think Bateman's probably the one that's super happy about it.
Oh, yeah. Bateman looked pretty good last year as a rookie. Just a little more utilization this year. I think he's going to stand out.
That's right. Our buddy Tooch in the chat saying fantasy football time. Let's go, boys. Appreciate it, Tooch. Thanks for tuning in, man. We're just getting to tight ends. We walk through wide receivers. Of course, all of our full top rankings. We usually do top 30 wide receivers and running backs, top 15 quarterbacks, tight ends, defenses, kickers. All that's available on either Twitter or Facebook. We're running through as much as we can here on the air before kickoff, which is coming up here in the next 10 minutes. So we got to wrap things up. But let's get to tight end rankings, Adam. We both feel strongly about Mark Andrews. This is the guy who I think this year probably takes a step into tight end number one if he can stay healthy with Lamar healthy as well, especially against the Jets today. I don't think there's any doubting Mark Andrews. I think Adam froze up on us, but that's all right. I can briefly speak to Mark Andrews. This is a guy that gets the chuck downs from Lamar. He gets deep balls from Lamar. He's a big red zone target for Lamar, and he's got crazy good hands. I'll take Adam off the screen until he comes back. But, I'm just looking forward to this guy really putting himself forward. I mean, they've talked a lot this offseason about how much they're going to involve Mark. We got Adam back, but we both feel really good about Mark Andrews this year and his. I don't know. You froze up on for a while, so I just took you off and put you back on. It's all good.
Yes, sorry.
But Mark Andrews, we were just saying about how many balls this guy can catch and take the step into tight end one overall this year.
Yeah, I absolutely expect that as well. I think you're going to see, we just mentioned Bateman. It's pretty much Bateman and Andrews there, and we've already seen how much Lamar loves Andrews last year. I think Andrews finished tight end one last year, didn't he? I believe so. I believe he did because of all the touchdowns he accrued there at the end. Kelsey was down a little bit in touchdowns last year, and Andrews went monster with touchdowns, I believe, double digits. So, yeah, I totally expect the same this year. Him and Lamar have a great connection, and we know Lamar's out for that contract this year, so I expect lots of touchdowns to Mark Andrews.
For sure. We don't have to tell people about Travis Kelce. We know that he is a beast. We know he's going to do well today against Arizona, but a guy that's not in a lot of people's mind when you talk of top tight ends, especially after last year, is Kyle Pitts. You and I both have him in our top five. I have him 2 overall. I'm expecting him to take a big leap forward, especially with that new QB in town, Adam.
Yep. To me, Kyle Pitts is the only other tight end outside of the 2 we just mentioned, Andrews and Kelsey, that can contend for the number 1 spot. Really, last year he was just the touchdowns aspect of it away from being that. He went over 1,000 yards as a rookie. And this year, I think he's actually in a better situation with Marcus Mariota as quarterback.
I agree.
Mariota just used to make Delaney Walker a top 5 tight end year after year. And even when Delaney Walker was an older player, and I mean, let's face it, Kyle Pitts is a million times the athlete and player that Delaney Walker was. No disrespect to Delaney Walker. But Kyle Pitts is a total freak athlete and tight end that could break every record in the book. So I think it's monster season for Kyle Pitts.
I'm with you there, Adam. I feel the exact same way. Tooch with a question about Soldier Field being a mess. Should we downgrade players in this game? Through the air, yes, I do. I do think we do. And, speaking of players, the only player we're not downgrading, which is a great segue, is Cole Kmet. We both have Adam. We both have him in our top 10. And I think I would actually move him up probably to 6 or 7 after this weather news, because I think he's going to get a lot of chuck downs today. Could be a super sneaky guy that you could pick up and with top 5 potential all season long.
Oh yeah, I think Cole Kmet was my number 1 target in drafts this year. I got him kind of about half the time I wanted to, I'd say, but we saw he had so many targets last year and just couldn't get in the end zone. Just kind of a fluke situation where he had no touchdowns, but 60 catches or something, but 0 touchdowns, like 90 targets. So, again, kind of like the other thing we just talked about with the Ravens, Lamar's got his 2 guys. I think Fields has his 2 guys with Kmet and Mooney right there, and that's going to be the offense most of the year in the passing game. So I think Kmet's a safe play every week to get 5 or 6 catches, I think, and you hope for the touchdown.
Yeah, you got to hope for the touchdown for sure. We have a handful of questions here, so let's address some of these before we talk about our defensive rankings. We're not going to talk about kickers on the air because I don't think there's any reason to. But Tooch wants to know about DK Metcalf. He's got pretty good numbers with Geno Smith. Can he still have a good fantasy season? I think we all know that DK Metcalf is an absolute freak of an athlete. This is a guy that can destroy you on his own. You saw that touchdown, I think it was last year. He took off 99 yards or whatever it was. I think he can. I don't have high hopes for it, but I do think DK Metcalf can still be a serviceable wide receiver 2, with upside to be a 1. But for me, he's not the number 1 he was before because of that quarterback play. A lot of people disagree with me. Adam, I don't know how you feel about it, but DK is a guy that I didn't want to draft him too early. I wanted to wait until at least the 6th round.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about DK Metcalf overall because, he's going to be the go-to guy, I think, for Geno Smith. And as Tooch said there, last year in those games with Geno Smith, DK Metcalf actually had pretty good numbers, and I think they may have actually been better than the numbers he had in the games with Russell Wilson. But at the same time, it's just not going to be the same offense. They're not going to have as many scoring opportunities. But I do think he's going to be more in that 15 to 25 range, that low-end wide receiver 2, as you said, but he can give you that wide receiver 1 game. So, I don't want him as my wide receiver 1, but as a 2 or a flex play, I think he's going to be a very solid option.
I am fully agreeing. And in terms of Metcalf, we got a question here about Metcalf or Mooney. The weather conditions today. Yeah, I think you got to roll with DK. The weather conditions in Chicago are brutal. It's pouring rain. There's about 4 inches of water on the ground. It's going to be a sloppy game. It's going to be a fun one to watch, but it's going to be a sloppy game. Also, more Mooney questions. Would you start Mooney, Jacobs, or Ayuk at the flex? Well, I'm taking all the players in Chicago out of the mix because the weather sucks. So that leaves you with Josh Jacobs. Honestly, just because of the weather, I'm scared of Mooney and Ayuk. I really am. I'm curious, Drem, if you have any other options because
yeah, exactly.
I don't love Jacobs either, but I mean he's better than those 2 with this weather.
If you just have to start one, I guess the safest play would be Jacobs, and I would probably go Ayuk 2, Mooney 3, unfortunately, but
yeah, I would agree
just
with that.
Because Ayuk might catch some little short passes at the line of scrimmage there, end arounds or something.
Yeah, easily could. We're getting to the last 5 minutes of the show, so we'll finish up these questions and then we'll talk our defense. Raheem Mostert, is he healthy? Could be a big key for the Dolphins with Chase Edmonds there.
He is healthy. He is healthy to begin today, I believe, but we know how that goes with Mostert. He could be, check back with us at the end of the first quarter, Tooch, and that could be totally different.
Yeah, he could tweak his hamstring. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's super fast and seems to explode out of the backfield a lot, but just can never do it for longer than a few games at a time, it seems like. But I really like Chase Edmonds as a sleeper this year. I think he's going to be a really key part of that offense. We know Tua likes those short throws, and Edmonds is going to be a key part of that.
Drem wants to know about Devontae Smith at a flex instead. Yes, 100%.
Yep.
Against the Detroit Lions, absolutely. Give Devontae the green light today because I feel good about that. Breece Hall or Miles Sanders, non-PPR. I think there's a lot of mouths to feed for the Eagles. I really like Breece Hall this season. I know people think I'm crazy, but I think I would go Breece Hall over Miles Sanders. I know that's kind of crazy talk, but I would.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think I would probably go Miles Sanders. I feel like he's going to get a fairly good amount of carries, and you hope for that touchdown. We mentioned that seems to be quite elusive for him, but Breece Hall is going to be an exceptional player. I just kind of want to see how they split it up with him and Michael Carter, because they've still said a lot of good things about Michael Carter.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird to see how it plays out, but I just don't love Sanders today. I think there's going to be a lot of air attack against the Lions, but we'll see. One last call out about tight ends. Tooch saying watch out for Austin Hooper, filling in the Delaney Walker role, 7 catches in the last preseason game.
Yep,
Yeah,
Hooper. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I hate the passing game for the Titans. I think
Right.
Ryan Tannehill is probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. I know he got that big deal and he got the money when he made the playoffs, but he just isn't good. I don't know. That's all I have to say about it. I think they're going to run the ball to the ground.
Hooper and Hurst are those guys that you can grab and stream when you need them, and they could definitely put up a good game, but I don't know if you can count on it every week.
Yeah. Tooch saying Eagles best O-line in the NFL. I agree they have a great O-line. I'm not down that. We just think they have too many mouths to feed running back wise. Miles Sanders could go off today and make us all look silly, but he's got to prove it to me first before I put him in the lineup. So that's kind of where I fall on that. But all right, Adam, let's look at our defensive rankings real quick, briefly, and then we'll kind of get out of here.
3 minutes till kickoff.
Yeah, we got 3 minutes. So realistically, if you have the Saints, Colts, or Broncos, you're feeling good. The Niners are looking even better now with the rain in Chicago.
Yeah.
And the Ravens defense against the Jets. We really don't have to walk through everybody else. Just wanted to bring it up briefly. You can find these, of course, on Twitter or Facebook for us as well. But, Adam, before we get out of here, do you have a last-minute sleeper you want to pull out of your pocket for people in need of either a wide receiver, a running back, or somebody that you think is going to go hog wild?
The one guy I'm going to say that I mentioned a couple times in the show today is Randall Cobb. In that game, we think there could be a lot of points scored. Going to need to come back. We know Rodgers depends on Cobb, and they've got that tight relationship, and they're short at receiver with Allen Lazard out. So I think Aaron Jones is going to catch a lot of balls, and I think Randall Cobb could see one of those 5 for 50 and 2 touchdown type of games.
I love that call out, Adam. I think Randall Cobb could have a great day. I'm going to go dig into my super sleeper pocket here, Adam, for a tight end that used to be a fantasy stud and kind of fell off. I'm going to go with Evan Ingram today for the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against Washington. Trevor Lawrence loves him. I think Evan Ingram has a great day today, and people kind of works his way back into the fantasy conversation. I know it's a deep sleeper, but you could pick him up on waivers. He's available in like 98% of leagues or something crazy like that. So, that's my sleeper pick for the day. John's crazy about Olave. Great.
Olave is going to be a good player.
He's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to erupt today, but I could see it happening this season for sure.
Good luck, John.
Yeah, good luck, man. And good luck to all you guys during week 1 of the fantasy season. We walked you through all of our rankings. We answered all the questions. You can hit us up on Twitter at FFBGoon or at Joe Mandel at Papa Bear 816 for any questions. And, of course, follow us on Facebook as well and on Twitter. We're here for you all season long. Our rankings will be up weekly as well on Twitter and Facebook. Adam, I cannot thank you enough, brother. I'm so excited for season to get started and to do this all year long, man.
Heck yeah, man. It was a great time this morning. We've had a long show. Look forward to seeing how this goes today and getting our feet wet on 2022 fantasy season.
No doubt about it. Literally, if you're in Chicago, it's pouring rain.
Yeah, no kidding.
But all right, buddy, good luck in your matchups. We'll talk more later today. Everyone out there watching, everyone in the chat room, we thank you. And we'll be back next week. God bless America. God bless football. Let's go kick some ass. We'll see you next week.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, everybody.